Artificial intelligence is rapidly evolving. It will be a part of our everyday lives before we know it, and that includes our kids. We show you how an app uses AI to protect your kids from cyberbullying.
So we started talking about what that problem was, where the sources of that data was coming into those from those social medias onto the phones, and identified that we could actually reach out and capture that and then send the parents an alert.
Hear the warning from one mother who lost her child to suicide and how this app is just one tool you need to protect your kids.
What I didn't understand is that the girls that bullied Mallory, they had Snapchat. And so they would edit her picture, and they knew that Mallory didn't have Snapchat.
We also take a deep dive into how AI is changing the way your child is learning, how to make sure they are using the technology as a learning tool and not a replacement for critical thinking. That's today on Mom Squad. Hi everyone, I'm Maureen Kyle. Thanks for joining me here on Mom Squad. I'm going to guarantee that you or your child has used ChatGPT or some other type of artificial intelligence. It might not be used in every aspect of our lives just yet, but it will soon. There are dark sides to the technology, but there are also opportunities. A study by Harvard and the Center for Digital Thriving surveyed 1,500 teens. 51% of the kids between the ages of 14 to 22 reported using AI, but only 4% said they use it daily. 53% said they used AI to get information. 51% reported using it for brainstorming. Many of them said they used it to ask questions they were too afraid to ask adults. However, this study found teens reported concerns about using AI for bullying, lying, and discrimination, which is a major concern for many parents as well. Teens realize artificial intelligence can take someone's image and alter it, use their voice, create a deep fake, or do other harm. We are going to take a closer look at all of this, but first, let's start with a glimmer of hope. I recently sat down with a man who created an app using AI to monitor kids' social media accounts 24/7. Take a look.
I just say that she's just was a normal, everyday kid.
Mallory was Diane's youngest, a 12-year-old that loved gymnastics and crafts, a typical all-American girl with a sadly modern story.
A lot of what she was going through, I would always kind of chalk it up to everyday puberty, right? So mood swings, changing in appetite, changing in appearances, her friend group changed.
Diane says she never realized Mallory was getting bullied on social media, even though the 6th grader wasn't on any accounts.
What I didn't understand is that the girls that bullied Mallory, they had Snapchat. And so they would edit her picture, and they knew that Mallory didn't have Snapchat. They knew that her mom followed her on Instagram, and so they would screenshot the images and text them to her.
Oh, geez.
And that portion of it, I was unprepared for.
In June of 2017, Mallory took her own life. Sadly, Mallory isn't alone. Researchers at the National Institutes of Health released a report this year saying preteen suicide rates have increased every year since 2008. The links to social media use were well documented. A pressing concern, not just for Mallory's family, but shared by a Northeast Ohio parent and child, too. Neil Alexander and son Nick, who is head football coach at Walsh Jesuit High School.
Because every night I sit there and I scroll and watch my kids' social media accounts because they do stupid stuff. And so I've got to call them and say, hey, take that down. What were you thinking? That's going to hurt you. That's going to hurt the school. So I started thinking about it.
The two were inspired to create an app to help monitor any concerning words, photos, or posts on social media accounts using artificial intelligence. With the help of Cuyahoga Falls-based Wonderkiln, they developed cybersafely.ai.
So that's basically where the concept came from, to help him solve time, but realize that what we're doing could save kids because social media is such a wild west out there.
With the app, parents, coaches, and school administrators can connect kids' social media accounts. AI scans posts for inappropriate photos, threatening words, or illegal activity. The post is taken down within seconds, and an adult gets an alert on the dashboard.
The AI analyzed this post to be or include negativity. Sometimes, and this is the reality, The AI will say something is negative, even if the kid's intention was not harmful, it wasn't directed at bullying. But the AI's goal will just to be very comprehensive because we can't let anything slip.
The account is screened 24/7, something humans can't do.
This product allows the parents to see that there's something. We don't do anything about it. We let the parent know, and it's up to the parent to take the action.
Since launching, Neil has teamed up with schools and organizations working to keep kids safe online.
The school's teachers are telling me about bullying and how horrific that is, and that was continuous. But I've come to learn that things like sextortion, selling drugs online, nude pictures. I learned from a principal that 88% of middle school kids have either sent or received a nude picture, which I have a 13-year-old grandson, and it's amazing to me to think that that could actually occur.
Mallory's story connected Neil with Diane, who says this technology will help save kids like her daughter who become a victim on social media.
Absolutely. We have to use technology to combat it. That doesn't mean this is a set it and forget it, meaning parents have to be parents, right? Like we have to put the word parent back into parenting. This isn't something that you download on your phone and, it's set it and forget it.
I'm sure you're like me and just devastated by Diane Grossman's story about her daughter, Mallory. What's terrifying is she did everything right. I wanted to share our entire interview with you because I think it's important to understand what happened and how her eyes were opened after her 12-year-old daughter's suicide. I know you've probably told the story a million times, and I know it's going to be emotional for even me to hear, but if you can, please tell me about Mallory.
It's truly my favorite question when people ask about Mallory. I just say that she's just was a normal, everyday kid. She was 12 years old. She was a gymnast. She was a cheerleader. We're a small business family. We're just an all-American family. And Mallory loved crafts, and she loved taking old shirts and turning them into dog beds. And she loved taking blue jeans and turning them into skirts and making them into handbags. Like she was just very crafty, and she loved making hand scrubs and bracelets. And so, she just was just the everyday American little girl.
Yeah. She sounds a lot like my own daughter, and probably for any parent who's watching out there, just probably sounds very familiar. Yeah. Did you notice any change in Mallory's behavior? Did you have any sort of, when you're looking back, thinking, gosh, she started to go through some things that you might not have noticed right away?
Yes. So it depends on what lens you look at. So, when Mallory was going through her issues, a lot of what she was going through, I would always kind of chalk it up to everyday puberty, right? So mood swings, changing in appetite, changing in appearances, her friend group changed. But those are kind of some of the everyday things that kids go through in middle school. And Mallory is my youngest. And so I had been down this road before with other children. So I kind of knew that what she was going through felt very familiar. What I didn't understand was the gravity in which her peers were so important and how important it was for her to fit into this group. I also didn't factor in the electronic component and how they could reach her through ways that I wasn't able, or at that time, thinking about monitoring. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of the signs, the changing in appetite, the changing in friend group, the grades started to drop a little bit. Once her grades dropped, because she was always like an A student, A-B student. When she hit a 60 in science and I started to really start to see that's when we started to have a more intensive conversation with the school system.
Mm-hmm. Did Mallory open up to you ever?
A little bit. Like she would say things like, I had a bad day at school today, or she would talk about how she didn't have a seat at lunch. Her lunchbox oftentimes came home with, she hadn't touched it. And then she would make excuses and say, well, I wasn't hungry today. And I used to joke and say, Mallory, you're a gymnast, you have to eat. And so I think when you're living in it, there are two journeys, right? Like you're trying not to blow it out of proportion for the kid because you don't want to exaggerate it and make it worse. The other thing is that even in your mind as a parent, no one wants to believe that their child is being humiliated and intimidated and bullied at school. So there was a lot of that going on. I think that when you're living it, you're just trying to go through the motions of being a mom, right? Like you're making dinner and you're trying to get through homework. And so when you're there, I take responsibility that maybe there were certain things that obviously I missed, that in hindsight, like hindsight's very cruel. And so in hindsight, you can look back on it and go, oh, that was very obvious, which is why my husband and I chose to speak out.
Yeah, you sharing your story is going to help so many families, because I know that feeling as a parent. You like you said, you're driving around to practices and puberty. You just don't know how it's going to present yourself in a child, and I think that's what's so confusing about the society we are in now, is because they are able to keep sort of this secret life on electronics, whether it's a smartphone or an iPad or something. Was there, when you say what were you doing to monitor? What device did she have, and what did that look like?
So I knew that social media was bad, and I will definitely say that I had. And again, there was, this was in the time when 13 Reasons Why had just come out, and Mallory had asked to watch it, and I did not let her watch it. I think social media had just started to become an everyday part of kids' lives, and Mallory didn't have it. She had Instagram, and I followed her, and I had strict rules about having like fake accounts. She wasn't allowed to have Snapchat. We had strict rules about having your phone, in your room. So I think I was early enough in, but again, it's hard to navigate. Yeah. So she had a little bit of social. We had started reporting the issues in early September, that these girls started to kind of make Mallory a victim. They kind of started to isolate her, pick her out. So we started reporting really early on, which is why I feel like we had such a strong case against the school system. It wasn't that I was dismissive. So we used to notify them. I had a phone book of emails where we would notify the school of what was going on and things of that nature. So there was a history there, but again, as a mom, you try not to blow it out. What I didn't understand is that the girls that bullied Mallory, they had Snapchat. And so they would edit her picture, and they knew that Mallory didn't have Snapchat. They knew that her mom followed her on Instagram, and so they would screenshot the images and text them to her. Oh, and that portion of it I was unprepared for. Yeah. I didn't realize that they would find a new creative way. At that time, I felt no need to monitor Mallory's phone. It just seemed odd to me. Why would I need to monitor her phone, right? She was texting her mom or sister, maybe a couple of friends, but that was it. I didn't think about that the girls would go that far.
And this story is familiar in a lot of school districts all across the country. I know even for me locally, I heard a similar story about how kids were taking pictures and altering them and putting it on their own social media. And
with the onset of AI, there's another level to this that I think that parents need to be really concerned about. There was already a case in New Jersey, in a town very close to us, where a girl's picture was used on pornographic websites, and they used AI to take her picture and upload it to a different body. And I think the gravity of AI certainly frightens me as a mom. I know what we experienced, and now you add artificial intelligence to it. That's a whole level of a new opportunity that kids have. Every 5 to 7 years, as technology is introduced to us, and again, these are not my statistics, these are CDC statistics. Every time we bring a new level, you see teen and tween suicide spike. So this goes back to the beginning when we brought AOL into our living rooms to where we are today. So we're in an epidemic of teen and tween suicide. Once we get comfortable with AI, which it will continue to progress, I think we'll see additional spikes in this. And I think we should all, as parents, be very concerned. I think artificial intelligence will enhance our lives in many ways, but I think with every good there is, and I think that there will be kids that will certainly abuse it, and we should be concerned.
After a quick break, Diane explains why she doesn't give talks at school anymore, and it has to do with what's being taught at home. Welcome back. I've been sharing my interview with Diane Grossman, a New Jersey mom whose 12-year-old daughter, Mallory, took her own life after being cyberbullied by kids at school. As part of her organization, she used to go to give talks at schools, but listen to why she says she stopped. Work with schools on...
Yeah, I'll answer that very candidly.
Yeah.
We used to be very active in going into the schools. What I found out, though, is the school systems love to check boxes to say, look, this is what we did. We brought this, hip hop company in and they did an anti-bullying program. And I'm going to confidently say it takes 6 months to break a bad habit.
Yeah.
So you can't bring an organization like Mallory's Army in and say, look, we had this beautiful school presentation and everybody was crying and everybody understands that what they're doing. Well, what happens that evening when they get home and they see something funny and they tag 3 of their friends in it and share it?
Yeah.
That's not how we do this. This is a community. This is a new way of living. Mm-hmm. And so in order for schools to understand the gravity of what they're up against, they have to make very strong decisions. I always say we have to be willing to piss off 10% of the population so that 100% of us can be happy.
Yeah.
We've got to take phones out of middle school and elementary school. And I know that there are lots of parents that will disagree with me because of school shootings. Mm-hmm. And I understand your fear. I do. But at the end of the day, more children die by suicide than they do in school shootings. That's a fact. Yeah. We lose 8 students a month in New Jersey to suicide.
Oh my goodness. Those
terrifying. Statistics are staggering.
Yeah.
And so I understand it. We've got to remove that component. We did really well in school before cell phones, and we'll do really great after them. Mm-hmm. So schools, they're going to have to do the hard work. They're going to have to be willing to piss off a few parents in order for everyone to be safe. And so if school systems are not willing to do that, they don't get to sit on both sides of the fence. And that's what I find that schools are trying to do. They're trying to appease everyone. We need to get back to the basics.
Yeah.
Schools are education facilities. Yeah. They are there to teach our children reading, writing, arithmetic. Mm-hmm. We need to get back to the basics in school. And we also need to realize that our kids need to be social. I see it every day in middle school, particularly here in New Jersey. We've just removed recess. Wow. And kids need downtime. They can't sit there. I don't think our kids should be learning AP geometry in 8th grade. Yeah. And we're just putting such pressure on our kids. And based on all of the education in the world, we're kind of not doing so great. So clearly what we're doing is wrong. So I think that as far as school systems, no, I don't do the presentations in schools anymore because I just am not going to be a box that you check to say, we brought Mallory's Army in and now everything should be better.
Interesting. Yeah.
We've got to create better habits and we're not.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Diane, I could talk to you forever. I really appreciate your time on this because
Thanks.
Believe me, I am doing everything I can to get the word out. You sharing your story, I know it will impact so many families, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Mallory's Army has a documentary, and if your organization could do anything, that's really what I would ask.
Okay.
Put the documentary up there. It's a 90-minute story, and everyone's like, oh, I don't want to watch it. It's so sad. Listen, my life is sad. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Having your child, 12-year-old, self-harm and die by suicide, it's awful.
Right. but it's important.
But there is light.
Yeah.
There is light. And so the reason why we did the film was so that parents and kids can understand that every single person experiences trauma.
Yeah.
Right? It's not what happens to you in this life, it's what you do and how you respond to it. So that's really the basis of Mallory's Army film is, yes, bad things are going to happen, but how do we respond? How do we take the pain and suffering that we experience and how do we turn it into good in the world? And that's really the basis of the film. And every parent should sit down with their kids, watch the film, and have a really great conversation. Talk to your kids if they have thought about hurting themselves. Yeah. Because if a kid says to you, yes, I've thought about hurting myself, then you can say, okay, great, thank you for sharing that with me. Let's fix it. But if you think asking your kid that tough question is going to somehow inspire them to do that, it's been clinically proven over and over again that is not true. Ask the hard questions. Talk to your kids about self-harm. I call it the 3 S's. In kindergarten, they learn about Santa Claus. In 3rd grade, they learn about sex. And in 5th grade, they learn about suicide. Who's leading the conversation? If it's the kids on the playground, we've got a problem. Yeah. The adults in the room need to be learning and leading the conversation as it pertains to suicide and self-harm. And again, not every child dies by suicide. There are self-harm, there's eating disorders, there's cutting, there's abuse, there's just so much, there's sextortion, there's inappropriate relationships between teachers and kids. And everyone's like, oh, not my kid. And I am living proof that if it can happen to our family, you are not immune to the disease that our children are facing. And we have got to get in front of this before your family becomes the same statistic. I am so sad. There are thousands of people like me, thousands. That is gut-wrenching. Yeah. And we've got to do better as a society.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're very inspiring, Diane. I really appreciate it. It is terrifying. It's gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking, and all of those words that don't even scratch the surface. But right. I love what you're doing. I think it is vital to families like mine to hear these stories and to know and gain the knowledge and the education of what's out there and what kids need to be talking about, what families need to be talking about, and how we need to protect our kids. I
always say that, and I'll wrap this up with this. Everyone thinks that technology gives our children access to the world, right? They have access to worldly things that you and I growing up with that we never had access to. Yeah. That's simply not true. We're not giving our children access to the world. We're giving the world access to our children.
I can't thank Diane enough for sharing her daughter's story. Now coming up, who is teaching your kids to use AI properly? We introduce you to a teacher who is doing an amazing job embracing this technology. Artificial intelligence is changing our world in ways we could only imagine a few years ago. That includes classrooms, where it's sparking curiosity and preparing students for the future. But with any new technology, there are potential dangers as children navigate it on their own, making it critical for parents to understand this powerful tool. Danielle Wiggins introduces us to a teacher ahead of the curve, becoming a pioneer of incorporating AI in classrooms.
Hello, hello.
In this space, early adaptation is welcome.
Yeah, let's try it. See what happens.
Dan Jones, a middle school social studies teacher at the Richland School of Academic Arts.
We're focusing on the events that led to the fall of Rome.
Is an early adopter and advocate of a new terrain in education.
When I first started working with AI in December of 2022, I knew that it was going to change the entire landscape of the classroom.
Not only does Jones use a digital platform designed to look like Netflix to present lectures and content.
Click on Mr. Jones and that'll take you to your AI spaces.
He's also incorporated a chatbot powered by School AI that's specifically tailored for students.
One of the things that it makes School AI different is that it reintroduces critical thinking into the AI process.
Jones is among the 18% of K-12 teachers in the U.S. who reported using AI. He says the program he introduced to students doesn't just provide answers, but gets students to respond too.
It asks probing questions to get students to be reflective and to explore more deeply the content that's being covered.
It wouldn't take as much time as a teacher would to answer your question.
So perfect.
7th grader Kimati Brooks is a fan of school AI's speed and non-judgmental responses.
It won't make fun of you if you misspell something.
So you're creating the chatbot as...
Yes.
So you're programming it.
And because the software gives Jones a level of control over the chatbot, he says it won't do the work for students either.
All of a sudden it takes that anxiety from the teacher's side of, oh my gosh, they're just going to cheat. It's not going to write on their behalf. Okay. It'll help them brainstorm, it will help them process information, and it will guide them through the writing process.
But does Jones, a published author who also writes about AI in the classroom, see artificial intelligence replacing teachers on the horizon?
A teacher is able to empathize and understand and give grace to a student who needs it. AI is not able to replicate that. A teacher doesn't have to worry that they're going to get replaced by AI. They might get replaced by someone who uses AI.
Now that's something to think about.
Jones says about 7 other teachers in the building are currently using the AI program. The school has developed an AI policy requiring students to acknowledge when they've used the technology. Now, this is going to be a huge shift in our entire lifestyle over the next few years. The more we can prepare our families, the better. Thank you so much for joining me today on Mom Squad. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Mom Squad with Maureen Kyle, and on Instagram @Mom Squad Show. We'll see you next time.